The CA-3 from Century Arms and PTR. Let's check it out. Guys, when it comes to a battle rifle, it's hard to beat the 308. Yes, they're a little bit heavier, but man, the range is really long, and that 308 power really surpasses 5.56 or 7.62 by 3.9. Today we're going to take a look at the CA-3, and this is a Century Arms PTR collaboration. This is really the best of both worlds. It uses the modern standards from PTR, which makes excellent HK G3 clones, but yet with Century Arms imported parts from the original Cetmes. This has a lot of wear to it, but it uses the original Cetme stocks. It takes the G3 magazines, which these aluminum magazines are very inexpensive, but we're also using the Cetme mags. PTR has definitely covered a lot of the very essential items in this, and yet you still have that original stock set, you have those original sights, and you have some worn parts that make this look like it's just come off the battlefield. And we want to give a big thank you to Century Arms for sending the CA-3 for this review. Well, the CA-3, Century Arms, PTR coming together, bringing surplus Cetme parts into the U.S., which Century Arms does, and then PTR provides the U.S.-made parts to make this really an up-to-date rifle. Now, we have a mag release right here, and then we have a paddle mag release. And so you just take it, bring it out, and then it pulls out. And these are your standard G3 mags. They're aluminum. I was using some Cetme mags, which are all steel, but these are fairly reasonable in price, and they're 20 rounds. Then we're going to check the chamber to make sure it's empty. We're cocking it, and we can lock that charging handle to the back. Then we can do the HK slap. The Cetme is really a Spanish version of the HK G3 or Model 91. And this was designed by Ludwig Vollgrimler, who was a German engineer and really inspired by the STG-45. But there were a lot of upgrades made to this design. But we're going to go through back to front. We're going to talk about the parts that are original and then the upgrades from PTR. We have the original OD green stock. It has a hard rubber butt pad. Then we have two ports where you put your takedown pins, and we'll look at that when we break it down. Also, we have the original pistol grip. Now, the back receiver cover, you can see the wear on it. Just gives it, to me, a lot of character. Of course, again, you have your takedown pins. But one thing I really like is they retain that drum adjustable rear sight. And so this goes from point blank to 2, 3, and up to 400 meters. Now each distance is marked. It does have an aperture, and then you have your open sight, and this is really for 100 meters. And this is something that the original C308 did not have. These are typically on your HK91 or G3. It does have an all-metal stamped receiver. It's one of the things that PTR typically does is a polymer lower. And so this is a stamped receiver to the specs of the Cetme. And the Cetme is 80% compatible with all your HK G3 parts. And they've given it a really nice anodized finish that gives it that military look. The stamped trigger guard and the trigger and a lot of the trigger pack are original Cetme parts, but PTR did make the hammer and the Sear, which just adds to making it 922R compliant. And we have the slim original surplus handguard, and it is again an OD green. The actual handle's made by PTR, but all the parts, you can see the wear on them, and it just pops back. It locks into this little notch, and again, you get that HK slap. So when you're ready to load your magazine, and you have it in this position, when you hit it, it goes home. Now the 18-inch barrel is made by PTR, so you're going to get really good accuracy. We have a front sight protected with a post, and then you have a US-made flash hider. It is 5/8 by 24 thread pitch, so you can change this out to any kind of muzzle brake or compensator. Or you can add a suppressor. The trunnion is made by PTR, so it's going to give it a lot of strength with that barrel. The bolt and the bolt carrier are original Cetme parts. Now we do have a sling mount in the stock, and this is on the other side, but you can see the wear on this stock on the different parts. It just has highlighted. It's not damaged, it just has wear on it. And I think that really adds to a lot of the character. I mean, even here with the safety and with the mag release, I mean, you know, it's different parts, but yet it has that oxidized finish on the receiver, which is new production, made in the US. Now you can see part of the bolt system coming out, and you see the wear on it as well. And this is a roller lock, just like your G3 or HK91. Now we'll check the trigger action. We do have this stamped trigger. It is a military surplus rifle, so we have a little bit of take up, and then we have the brake, and you can hear the ping. Reset right there. Okay, we're going to check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 6 pounds, 2.7 ounces. 6 pounds, 3 ounces. And guys, the 308 compared to your 7.62 by 39 and then your 5.56, you know, it's considerably larger and you have a lot more powder. Your range is much greater. It does produce more recoil, but the 308 has proven to be a devastating round. Now here's the original HK G3 mags. They are, again, aluminum. They're stamped. These function really well. And here is some of the original Cetme mags, and they're all steel. I mean, these are solid magazines, and they tend to work in here. Sometimes Cetme mags have a little bit of trouble in your standard HK, but with your Cetmes, it should work fine. But this actually was produced for the G3 mags, and you do get one with the gun. And again, these are both 20 rounders. Now the original Cetme was set up just like this for the claw mount, and you have your mounts here where you can attach the claw. Some of the PTR rifles and the C-308 from Century Arms had a Picatinny rail that was welded onto the receiver. But you'll need to have a claw mount to fit a scope on this rifle. Now in your selector switch, it is marked S for safe. You go to the E for semi-automatic. You can actually pull it on down to the F or the full auto, but it will only shoot semi-automatic. And with your hand on the grip, you can bring that down fairly easily. Now the total length is 40.5 inches. I mean, it's a full-size battle rifle, and it weighs 9.5 pounds. But when you're shooting that 308, you really appreciate that little bit of extra weight, even though the roller lock tends to mitigate a lot of the recoil. Big thank you to Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammunition, all made in the USA. One of the biggest suppliers of ammunition in the country. We're using these HK G3 mags. They're aluminum. One comes with the rifle, but we also have a couple of actual Cetme mags. They're all steel, and they do fit. Guys, the Century Arms C-308, the earlier model was more of a pretty much newer rifle. They did use some of the surplus parts, but this is a PTR build. And PTR is known for their HK G3 clones that are just excellent. But this uses a lot of the traditional parts, and yet it has a new barrel, new trunnion. The trigger groups is good for 922R compliance. I'm using the standard HK mags, but it'll also use the Cetme mags. Gives you that HK slap. I mean, this thing is roller lock, so honestly for 308, it's not bad to shoot, even as semi-auto. The barrel type sight on the back is your yardage, your meters. Front sight at the front has post, but it's protected. Very thin handguard. This makes it a very slim and trim option for 308. And this is a very proven design. The original Cetme model was made in Spain, but then that was the father to the HK G3. I'm gonna tell you what, it has some power behind it.
but it's pushing that 308 out. A beautiful rifle with the vintage parts on it, and definitely something that if you love military style firearms, this is really going to be one that you're going to enjoy.
All right, for disassembly, we'll drop our magazine, check the chamber, it's empty. Now right here we have 2 pins, and these are your takedown pins for your receiver, and they come out on the other side. So we just want to push them through, and then they'll come out. Now these will come directly all the way out. So we're going to take here in our buttstock, and we're just going to put them here just for safekeeping. Now just take your stock and just pull it back. You'll pull out your recoil spring, and it's connected into one piece. Next, we're going to take our charging handle, pull it all the way back, and we'll pull out our bolt carrier and bolt. Now you got to be careful. Once you pull those pins, this gets really loose, and so while you're pulling that out, make sure you hold on to this next to the receiver. But here we have the trigger group. Now here you have your trigger group, and we have the hammer, again US made, and the Sear. You don't want to pull the trigger on this unless you have your thumb here, so you can just get a kind of a look at the hammer itself, and then it locks back in. Now to remove the trigger group from the frame, we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop our hammer. It takes a little tension off. Take your safety, move it all the way up past safe, and then just wiggle it. There's a little key on the other side, and it'll pop out. There's your safety, your trigger group. There we go. It's a little tight, but this is your trigger pack, and you can change this out if you want. You know, they do make some aftermarkets, but this is the original. And again, the hammer and the Sear are US made parts. When you're putting it back in, you want to get it as close to the front as you can and let that trigger come through. Go ahead and bring that all the way down just like that, and then you want a clear hole for your safety, and then it just pretty much straight up, it just pops into place like that, and now you're ready to go. All right, here is your bolt carrier, here is your bolt, here are the rollers. This is what locks into the chamber, actually into the trunnion. So when this meets up inside next to the chamber, these are locked into place because this just goes rear. As long as it's forward from the carrier here, the carrier face, these stay loose. As soon as this goes down, it pushes the rollers out and it locks them. And so when this gun fires, this is in a locked position, and then as soon as it fires, the carrier pulls, and then it releases the rollers, and then it comes back. And so it's a very ingenious system. Of course, it's very proven all through the HK design, and of course with the Cetme. So first thing you want to do is take this bolt and you want to turn it counterclockwise. Now this one's pretty tight, so we're going to see if we can get it, and you want to hear it click. See if I can take a rag here and turn it. There it goes. Okay, so 1 click, 2 clicks, and then bring it out, and then this just comes out. Now your firing pin, go ahead and click it around and it'll release. So here's your firing pin. Here's your firing pin spring, and then you have a housing that just is a firing pin guide actually. And now you can clean this out, and of course, you know, this is pretty dirty obviously, and so it's a good time to clean it, and you want to make sure you maintain those roller locks. One of the things can happen is that the locks, there can be wear over time and the locks won't lock up, and you have to get a little bit larger diameter roller locks, and there's a certain distance in between or a gap that's measured. Now for reassembly, we want to take our firing pin, put the spring back over. I did clean this in between, just want to make sure that it was good and you know, had a lot of the debris out. So here we've got the firing pin guide. You'll notice this little nub right here, and it corresponds with the nub in the bolt carrier. So we're going to take and just push this in, and then we're going to go clockwise. And right here you'll notice a small window, and you can barely see it. When it goes dark, that is the spot where you set your firing pin. And then we're going to take our bolt and we're going to actually put the top going over it first where you can see it. So let's go ahead and just get it kind of turned until it fits down in it, and then we're going to go clockwise. So 1, 2. This third one is usually very difficult. You've got to overcome the extractor. And there are some tools you can use. We're going to use some good old pliers, and this will work and it won't hurt the tool steel. There we go. So now we have it in place. Now we have the rollers locked because this is against the bolt carrier. There needs to be a space at least 0.004 up to 0.20, and that's H&K numbers for the gap. So if you're having any kind of problems, it could be this. You may need to have your rollers replaced. Now, this is supposed to just pop up, but it's not going to because the extractor is sitting right here. So I'm going to take a screwdriver, set it down in there, and just pop it forward. Now the rollers are unlocked. And so while it's back, the rollers are locked. While it's forward, they're loose. All right, guys, for reassembly, we're just reverse order. Go ahead and put in your bolt carrier and bolt. Just let it go forward. Then we're going to take our trigger group, and you want to put it up toward the front. And I'm going to go ahead and put my hammer in the cock position, make sure it's alpha safe, and just take it, set it inside here. There we go. It just slides right in. And you can see right here where your holes go to hold in your stock, which holds in your trigger group. Now we're going to take our recoil spring, go ahead and put it in the top, and then just bring it over this whole area right here. And this is really what caps off your receiver. Now once you lock this in, you're able to retrieve your pins from the stock in the back, put those in. Now we're going to test for function. And we're back in business. Now the price on the Century Arms CA-3 is $999. Using the original Cetme parts, again, USA made parts with the barrel, the trunnion, the hammer, Sear, and stamp receiver. So it's really just a half and half, pretty much. But these are great rifles, and there are still plenty of parts out there for Cetme, so you have a lot of different part configurations, and the magazines, being HK, fairly inexpensive. This is a proven design. And so there are a lot of pros right up front. I mean, 308 caliber, it's very effective. You're getting a little bit more recoil, which could be a con compared to an AK or, you know, a AR-15. This has a lot of the original parts, and it just really makes this rifle look just vintage looking, and I love that. And yet again, it's been updated. Another con would be it's just heavy. I mean, 9.5 pounds, and it's 40.5 inches, so it's fairly long, but it is a full battle rifle. Disassembly is very simple and ready for field strip, actually in the field. Parts are robust. One other thing that you'll need to watch is the roller lock gap, making sure that you have that correct gap, because that can cause some issues. And really, one other con is it will deform your brass, especially around the mouth when it's ejecting, and you'll have streaks on it. But overall, a very proven design, whether it's the Cetme, and this is the later model, it's not the early models, which this really looks just like an HK G3. And again, it takes 80% of the G3 parts. So very proven design, and really for under $1,000, and that's, you know, in market price will be less. This is going to be a great rifle, and these are limited to the parts that Century Arms has imported. So once they're gone, you know, then you're going to the rifles that PTR produce, which can run up to up to $1,500. But this really gives you the power to reach out to really long distances. Guys, when it comes to the CA-3, I mean, you've got those original cool parts that just have that wear on them, but yet they're all functional. And then you take PTR, which makes really excellent G3 clones, and you put that together for a vintage type rifle, and yet up to modern standards. Gives you a lot of power and ready for about anything. And again, a big thank you to Century Arms for sending the CA-3 for this review. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America, long live the Republic. standard G3 mag. Okay, that was kind of sloppy. That was sloppy. Right there with the FN. Were pulled right out of storage. Okay. I don't like that. Don't like any of that. HK G3 clones. It's just plane after plane, plane after plane after plane after plane.